quite, if I might say something that's not correct, because Laurie is representing the AI. I guess Laurie is there as the AIJA, but the secretariat is provided by the AIJA, and my role is sort of secretary of the secretariat sort of thing. I think in the early days I did see that Greg's name was down as a representative, but I think we might just need to clarify that with Laurie.
Yeah, because I think when Laurie was first involved, he was in your Ministry of Finance, I think. So
right.
So I think that was how his role was. Because if not, it looks rather odd that two representatives from one organization on the EXCO. So that's the only thing I was trying to sort out.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that's, I mean, I would check it with Laurie, because I've only just celebrated my 1 year anniversary here, so my knowledge is still on the upward trend. So I think probably just clarifying that with him, because whether I'm just not quite sure how.
Yeah, I thought we could do that right at the end without all the other, because technically I should have done it earlier, but I was like busy with other stuff, and I kind of
no, that's fine.
Wanted to have a pre-meeting, So
yeah, I think that's
we could have clarified. I'd rather not place all this on new member.
Yeah.
Okay. I see Dan is coming in. Great.
Hello.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. Hello, Allison. Hello, Patrick.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm getting a little tired. My first call this morning was at 5 this morning. And who was that? I think that was with some country, and then and now it's 9, and then and then I'm doing a presentation to that Turkey symposium at 1 this morning.
Oh my God! That's only in 4 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I start blabbering, you'll understand.
Okay. So we shouldn't keep you too long away.
Well, no, I have to stay awake for at least another 4 hours. So.
Oh wow. Okay, that's good. How come Guam and Australia is the same time zone? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
No idea why.
Yeah.
There's Bob.
Hi.
Oh.
How are you?
Nice to see you, and nice to see your backdrop. I thought that was your display of all your stuff.
Yeah, a few things. That's in my office. All around the Pacific.
That's interesting. We just have Beth and Laurie to join us.
Patrick, did you hear from Beth?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. So hence why I've added that item to the agenda.
Okay.
I didn't see. We saw Edward, but he has. Did he leave?
Can you hear me, Jennifer?
Yes, I hear you, but
barely.
You see him? Because I unfortunately don't. Patrick, are you able to see him?
I think we have.
No video showing yet, but I was about to say I'll turn off my camera in case that helps show more images.
Is Laurie going to join us?
He's supposed to be, yes, I think.
Okay.
For Microsoft Teams, how many persons can actually be seen? I wonder. Laurie is waiting.
They're supposed to have, if I'm not mistaken, 49 tiles that are available now compared to what it was before.
So at least on the one screen, we should be able to see everyone.
Yeah.
See Laurie. See Edward.
Oh, hang on.
Edward, do you have your video on?
Yeah, we're trying to fix something. We have a problem, I think, with our video call.
Oh, okay. Hi, Laurie.
Hi, can you see me now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Ah, yes, there we go.
We are also waiting for Beth, I think.
Are we seeing multiple screens there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it appears that Edward's video is showing his computer screen, but it's not actually sharing the screen. So it's sort of on his end.
He's just got, yeah.
Is that sort of a display or something?
Oh, you can see that? I can't see that.
Yeah, I see it.
This is Edward's screen.
Oh, so this is a very tiny.
No, I think his technical guy is trying to fix for him.
Okay. Laurie, you're in Sydney. Sydney is not facing a lockdown, is that right?
No,
That's
we've
right.
been very lucky, actually. Victoria's just gone into a short lockdown, but even our lockdown numbers are very, very small. They're able to trace pretty much everyone who's had a contact, and you know, I think in Victoria the numbers are around about 60, and that's seen as a big outbreak. That's 60 over about a week.
Okay, that's reassuring. We are
Oh, yeah,
on heightened alert, so that means
Oh,
there's
dear.
no dining in. You can't be seen outside more than persons. You know?
Ah.
This restriction will go on till the 13th of June.
So what do you see on the screen now? Do you see us just sitting in chairs? Are we in interactive mode, or you still see yourselves visual screens?
No, I can see
Well,
four of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see 4 people. It's all changed. Oh, here we go.
But
Yeah, we only see you on that multiple tile one, Lori.
Yeah.
I can see Dan and
No, but I put us in together mode. I mean, on my end, so I see us all sitting in the auditorium side by
Oh,
side.
yeah.
Not, you know, yeah. So we're
Yeah.
in together mode.
Oh, I can see you twice. You've got two pictures.
there is that mode, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That-
If you
that's
look,
my
you
evil
try and
twin.
click that, it makes it a little. It's supposedly easier on your brain.
Let me see.
I don't know if Beth is going to join.
And then it gets rid of the multiple screens, but Laurie's in there twice, so we get the beauty
Yeah.
of his face twice.
I've got you twice too. I mean, it's,
Yeah. No, but if you go to the 3 dots up on top next to the
Yeah.
emoji icon, and they'll say more actions. If you go down and you choose together mode, we'll all be seated together in some white chairs next to each
yes,
other.
I see that.
Yeah.
show device, show meeting, enter full screen, show background, keypad, turn off incoming in.
Yeah.
I don't have it all together.
Up on top, show participants, show conversations, the icon, then there's 3 dots, more actions.
But why does Laurie appear twice?
Because he's on Ed's computer is showing him twice. You know how you were seeing it before? So if you go to more actions and you do together mode, then we'll be seated in an auditorium and, you know,
Right.
just kind of hanging out.
I don't have a button for more actions. I'm still looking. I've got 3 dots on the line.
Yeah.
Yep. If you just click on that, Laurie, and then scroll down, it should come up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you can
And-
even do background effects.
So what I've got, is it show background effects?
Yeah.
Above that, there should be together mode.
Screen, show meeting details, show device settings, show background effects, keypad.
Oh.
That's it.
You may not have a updated version of Teams. Haven't downloaded the updated version of Teams.
Oh, may not.
But it looks rather strange to the together mode, you know.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're in a movie theater.
Yeah.
So I've got version 1.4007175.
Wow, that's too many numbers for me.
It's probably just the last digits, Robert. 7175. Is that yours latest?
Yeah.
Top left-hand corner about Microsoft Teams, under the Microsoft Teams tag right on the top. If you click on that, it'll tell you what version it is.
Pat?
Yes?
Do you know whether Beth will be able to make it? Or was there some reminder? Because for her, it's about, let me see, it's 11 p.m.
Edward.
No, so we had an RSVP to say she was coming, but we haven't heard anything since.
Okay, because it's already 11:05. I wonder how much, whether we can begin or do we wait a while more? Although I still can't see Edward.
Oh, I see him.
You can proceed.
I see Edward now. It's all clear on his end.
While we fix our video, you can proceed the meeting.
Seated with us in that auditorium stuff.
Well, I think we should probably start. If Beth
Yeah.
joins us, then she can. So I guess I get to start the meeting, and then I get to turn it over to Jennifer Marie as the incoming chair of the executive committee. And first, just let me say we've been on a journey on this journey towards court excellence since 2007, and it's come a long way. And Justice Torres has been with us, in a lot of ways. He's done many presentations with us, with me, and been involved. And so I think we've great to have Patrick on, and Allison, you've just been wonderful. So and so Jennifer will have no problems. It's all yours, Jennifer.
Right. Thank you very much, Dan. I think we had put together a small PowerPoint of just some photographs as we say something to you in appreciation. So here goes. Hey, what happened to the music?
Oops. Apologies, everyone. I will fix that back up.
Are you going to play Elvis and now the end is near?
That's my favorite song.
And now we face the final curtain?
Great. Okay. Pat.
There we go.
Okay, great. Well, what happened to the music, Pat?
Can you not hear the music? It's playing in my ears right now. I actually can't hear anyone over the music. I don't know what's happening on your end.
When we were in Sri Lanka, the hotel we stayed at was one of those that was targeted by the terrorists there.
Yes. Yes.
We were in Bangkok, yeah.
Apologies, everyone. The music's playing through my headphones. It's so loud I can't hear anything anyone's
That's all right.
saying. Would you like me to continue playing the video without the music, or?
Okay, why not just do it without the music, and can you mute the rest so that we don't interfere?
Yeah. Yeah, people need to mute if they're not talking.
was like watching a silent movie. But it was just a short compilation of stuff that we had of the various conferences and workshops that Dan, in the course of the time that he was chair, and in fact even before, has participated and actively helped all of us in promoting the framework. So I think that's just a short trip down memory lane. So on behalf of all of us in the EXCO, I'd like to thank you, Dan. And of course, we continue to see you and work with you. So it's not goodbye. It's just that you have now to play a bigger role, since we will tap on you as super advisor. Then the two slides were also meant to welcome Judge Torres as well as Edward, and also to give some a face. At that time, I was not quite clear as to how each of you looked like. So that helped me put a face to the name. And also we welcome both of you for all the, you have high expectations, we have high expectations of you in contributing and supporting the work of the consortium and helping us move the consortium even further. All right? So with that out of the way, perhaps we can get on to the agenda items. What do you think, Patrick?
I think that's a great idea. Apologies again about the music. Don't know what was going on there.
It's okay. We can always send them a clip, things separately, and then they can listen to at his leisure. Yes. I think you indicated that for the new members, you have we have to formally welcome the new members, and I don't maybe Dan would like to say a word in welcome, since Judge Torres was your nominee.
Dan, you're muted.
Justice, you may have known Justice Torres when he was the Chief Justice of Guam a few years ago, and I think he will become the Chief Justice of Guam again in another year or so as they rotate assignments. And Justice Torres has been, he's been the president of the American Judges Association and been very active in the Conference of Chief Justices in the United States, and I've done, I don't know how many presentations we've done, Bob, in Bangladesh and Thailand and the Philippines, and there must be numerous ones. So Bob is very familiar with the international framework, and he's very familiar with the consortium, so he really hits the ground running. The island of Guam is quite a showpiece for modern courts, and I think they've taken the implementation of the framework to heart. And if you go through and you examine their courts and how they're managed and how they're constantly searching to improve themselves, I think Bob's been a major force behind that. So, I'm certainly welcome Bob, and I think he'll be a great addition. And Bob, I don't know if you want to say anything.
It's going to be a privilege and an honor to be able to be on the executive committee and to advance the framework across the globe. I have, been involved with the framework and presenting it, and was first introduced to it really very early on. I was looking back at some of the presentations that we did, and it was actually back, I think, even in 2010. So I've been involved for more than a decade with the framework, and I look forward to continuing to expand the reach. And I understand the importance of the framework and what it can bring to an organization, and so I'm looking forward to continuing to be part of it down the road.
Thank you very much. And now for Edward Simarmata. Edward Simarmata is currently the head of training and educating for the Center in Research Development. Actually, I came to know Edward many years ago when he visited the State Court and he was here on a training program. And at that time, he had showed great interest in the framework and had successfully pushed for the framework's adoption in many of the Indonesian courts. So Edward is also a welcome addition to us in the expo as well. So Edward, I am not able to see Edward.
I can see you, Jennifer, and then I can hear you.
He was there, and then it cycled back. So I think the text side on the side just goes rotating with us.
Formally appoint him. Is that what we were supposed to do?
I can hear you, Jennifer.
I believe so. Yes.
He's not
Hello?
in the room anymore.
Hello, can you see?
I think he's there. He's just on mute.
Yeah.
I can see he's.
Can you hear me, Jennifer? Hello? Can you hear me, Jennifer?
Edward, are you able to unmute yourself?
Unmute. Hello?
Hello, Edward. I think we can just hear you there.
Hello? Yeah, I'm still here.
Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me or can you see the video?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Jennifer?
We'd like to officially welcome you to the Exco, Edward.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer.
Invite you to say a few words if you like.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the for this meeting, and then it's an honor for me to the new Exco in the ICCE. I think that's all, Jennifer. Just short sentence for you all. Thank you. Hello?
Edward, have you completed your statement?
Yes, I have completed. That's all.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Just short sentence, Jennifer.
Yeah. So with that, I think it's good for us to move on to the agenda item 10. I note that the Secretariat has provided the new members teaching papers 1 to 4. Yes, 1 to 4, and will give you a background of what this is doing.
Apologies, Jennifer. Yeah, there's a bit of an echo on Edward's side. Okay, that's been fixed.
Okay, that's just to set the fact that the papers have been sent, and perhaps we could invite comments from you as you look at it, coming in with a fresh pair of eyes. I think we would be quite happy to get your views on the, for example, the governance policy, as well as the strategic plan, the proposals that we have for 2020 to 2024. So if you take a look at it and you have any views and comments that you'd like to share with us, I think we can just do that by email. Is that okay? All right? Okay, fine. We want to move on to item 3, potential partners.
Yep.
I think maybe a little bit of background on this paper agenda item is useful. What do you think, Patrick?
Yep, agreed. Would you like me to provide that, or? Yep. So, sort of following the last executive committee meeting, it was decided that the ICCE, as part of its future expansion plans, needed to cooperate with sort of other bodies, both in the implementation of the IFCE in terms of actually rolling it out, but also in terms of spreading awareness at a sort of pre-implementation stage. So following that, the Secretariat prepared one paper and a few others. They can be funding bodies and implementation bodies who pick up government contracts. Even though they're separate agenda items, agenda item 8, which we only added this morning, because the email just came in this morning, is an invitation to collaborate from Abu Dhabi, and I'd actually probably recommend just considering those two items together. I don't know what you think, Jennifer, but that seems logical.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can discuss that together. There are a couple of ways to going about looking at the list of potential partners. This is rather a huge list, and I'm not sure whether you have had chance to look at it and to have a sensing of which are the ones that you should strike through. So when I was going through it, I was looking at, like, for example, the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth Secretariat is is an organization that perhaps we can work with. But then when you look down, there are so many. So I think it is important for us to maybe just eyeball which are the organizations that we think that individually we will be able to engage as well. So sometimes the first tier should be people that we think, or organizations that we have some contact with, and therefore it can facilitate that collaboration much easier than just writing in cold to organizations that we have no contact with.
Yeah. Jennifer, I don't have the list in front of me, but I think I remember that there were some for-profit groups on there, and I wonder if we want to limit to nonprofit and judicial groups.
Yes. Yeah. Because I don't know whether you would look at a charity-based organization and someone that we want to work with, or NGOs. I'm not sure, because I was looking at, like, the Commonwealth. I looked at UNDP, World Bank. I know that there is some departments, like they say the Department of Justice Canada is expressed an interest in, but in terms of collaboration and promoting, I'm not sure. And then you have JustFel. I think JustFel is still in existence, right?
And I think maybe your suggestion of having two tiers might be good. We've got one tier that might be really the people, like the UNDP and the Commonwealth, some of those. There might be a second tier, like the Department of Justice, governmental institutions. I know USAID in the United States is interested, but they're not going to promote the framework. They talk about incorporating it into different. They've actually incorporated it into some of their tenders, but they are not going to promote it. So it seems to me there's that tier of who, like the International Association for Court Managers. That would be a group that would promote. Could be there to promote, or IOJT, so those groups that may really have, an interest in promoting the framework.
Yeah. I think that's good stuff, Laurie.
Yeah, look, I'd agree with that, Ben, and I think in relation to the private organisations that are delivering programs, they're at a different level to the level at which we want to strike initially anyway. And initially it's those who are framing the scoping of the projects. So the major organisations of the kind you're just talking about. Down the track, yes, we may be able to collaborate with some of the delivery organisations, but I think our starting point, if we're going to look at expanding our spheres of influence from the groups that we already have good relationships with, we've got a good relationship with UNDP, for example, we've got the very organisations you're mentioning. Let's focus on a few of those as our tier one contacts first, and then have a couple of different, maybe one or two and start to work on over time.
Yes. Anyone else? Has any other thoughts? If we were to just short this, I think based on the last discussion that we had flagged out UNDP, for example, and we could agree that each one of us, it's like the point of contact for each one of this. Will that help? That means working with the Secretariat and you front it in trying to promote the, in sussing out and seeing whether there's interest. So, for example, IACA, I would think that Dan and Beth may be the best people to be able to reach out to them, So as an example, then for example, UNDP, I think Laurie would be great in being able to do so. I know you didn't include that, the Chief Justices Forum for the ASEAN region. I'm happy for Singapore to try and reach out again since we already started some work there. Then I was wondering about USAID. Does USAID do quite a lot of promotions and work also with Indonesia? Because
periodically, I don't know. I think I don't know exactly where, but I know in Bangladesh, they've funded. We had a project with them in Bangladesh and in Mongolia years ago, and I believe Sri Lanka. Is USA? They're funding work in Sri Lanka, in which that tender is coming up again.
Is there a different USAID rep or body or office in different regions? So the question is, which region do we focus on? And if you think that it's Sri Lanka, I don't know whether Judge Torres has contacts.
I mean, obviously we still have contacts available in Sri Lanka. In looking at this list, one of the things that I thought about, I mean, it is quite broad and quite lengthy. And one of the things that concerns me is when we reach out to these organizations is going to be able to provide the interaction that they might need. And I thought that one of the things we might think about is prioritizing from this list who we think we would, get the most support from, and, maybe come up with a list of 4 or 5, no more than 10, I think, at the onset, that we could then divvy up amongst the executive committee members for reaching out to these organizations and, provide some of the initial information and discussion, because I could see if we spread ourselves too thin, they're going to feel that we're not being responsive, and if we may come up and we're going to do things that will not be fruitful for us. So I think, we probably should collectively look at this list, think about and maybe evaluate at least individually and then collectively who we think might be the organizations that will be most beneficial to us, and then go forward in that regard.
Yeah. I think that's where we have actually tried to start off already. We have at least been able to identify, I think, at a minimum, just IACA, UNDP, for example. I'm not too sure about World Bank. In the past, we were having some collaboration, but something has gone cold there. I'm not sure.
That's right. I think their focus has changed. I would put them sort of at a second tier or whatever. They were involved, and their input was, average, and then they dropped out. And I think big change in direction of the World Bank. It's a massive organisation. I'd be inclined to not focus on it at this stage.
Yeah, I agree, Lloyd.
So far, we seem to have identified just 2 that is quite clear, IACA and UNDP. USAID is a question mark. Is that right? Because we are looking at regions?
Jennifer, I can look and investigate that a little bit to see where, through our international group, to see where, what their sense is in terms of the contact and how to make the best outreach. So Patrick put me on the list to do that.
Because in the past, when we did our first conference in Singapore, I remember the workshop, USAID was very supportive. but it was in terms of funding and supporting it, as a way to promote the framework. That at that time was also within the ASEAN. So that was the ASEAN contact. But I understand they even have the Sri Lankan, US aid projects there. Then I come to Oceania. I know you have a whole list of, organizations that you think are AIJA. I'm not familiar with them, and I'm not sure how we want to prioritize that, because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4. I think Pacific Judicial Council, I'm not sure if that's something that is even worthwhile in our first year.
That's easy for me to do. I mean, I'm on the education committee from them. They did a program with the ICCE a few years back that Laurie also attended. So they're a resource clearly that we can collaborate with, and it might be time. It's been some time since we've done something with them, and now that we've got the new version that was just published last year, maybe it's time to circle back with them on that, and I think we could do that quite easily.
Okay, that's good. Then that can be the third, because there's something else called the Asia Pacific Judicial Forum.
That's defunct. They haven't met since I think the last time they may have met was in Beijing in 2013. And so they've been basically. I mean, you brought up the ASEAN Chief Justices, but there is also a Pacific Judicial Council, it used to be the South Pacific Judicial Council, and that is, comprised predominantly of the Chief Justices from all of the Pacific jurisdictions. So not just those that are members of PJC, but also Australia, New Zealand, and others. So that, I know that they usually have a biannual conference, and I think one of the things we should try to do is get on that program, find a way to get on that program. I'm not sure, with COVID, and they include Japan, they include Korea. There's quite a number of jurisdictions that are part of that group.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that we are hoping to do is also to collaborate in conferences, right? And have an opportunity in those instances. But it's easy. Actually, it's easier when you use Zoom. Most of it is online, and I think it is much easier to support and collaborate. But
I think networking, if you're going to get on like the Conference of Chief Justices program, and they're going to have an in-person meeting, and we get on the program to tell them about the framework, I think we have a better opportunity for them to take it to their respective courts within their jurisdictions, and to facilitate that with those groups. And so the networking and that aspect of it, if we're at a conference, first of all, to expose them. Not all of them are familiar with the framework, and they clearly aren't familiar with the changes that have been implemented with this newest version. And so I think we should try to find out when that is. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the current president might be from Queensland of that organization, or at least the last one was. I haven't been in contact with that group since I left as Chief Justice, but but I could find out who it is. But I'm sure Pat could as well, just as easily. But I know that it's the Australians are kind of the ones that organize it and monitor it, and I'm not sure where the last conference was scheduled, but and they invite guests from all over the world. I mean, we had some of the speakers. We had the Chief Justice of South Africa come to the last one that I was chief in Sydney, I think. So it's a good forum to get a place at the table, and then be able to work with those chiefs to look at their respective jurisdictions.
What was it called again?
Laurie, it used to be called the South Pacific Judicial Council, and then they dropped the South, and so I think it's called the Pacific Judicial Conference. I'm sorry, Pacific Judicial Conference. It used to be called the South Pacific Judicial Conference, and they have a long history. They go back. I mean, I've attended those meetings in Vietnam, in Sydney, in Tahiti. They include all of the French-speaking islands. I mean, it was all, not only the South Pacific, but through, and that's why they dumped the South, because they had, you know, a lot of other jurisdictions. They've had one in Korea, I think, as well, and they've joined in certain occasions. But it's called the Pacific Judicial Council. We did one in Papua New Guinea as well. So,
you know, how about
yeah.
how about in other regions? You know, Patrick, did you notice anything in South America, like Ceja?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
I think most of that sort of came through the Americas and the sort of funding.
Yeah, I think there's one. Ceja is a very out of Chile. You know, I've worked with them before. I mean, I've kind of lost contact, but some of our people that are international work in Central America, and they may know. So, if you would put on my assignment to follow up with a South American entity.
I think before we move on to the South Americans, can we clean up the ocean?
Oh, sorry.
Because we have done Pacific Judicial Council, which Justice Torres said he will deal with. Then we know that the first one is defunct. I'm looking at your list, Patrick. Then you have something they call the International Programs Unit, Federal Court of Australia. Is that something worthwhile? And so if we move with that, can we scratch the other two?
Yeah, I think so. Laurie,
Laurie
and I are working on that in the background, although very formative stages. At this point.
Look, I think you could ditch the Law and Justice Development Community of Practice at this point.
Department of Foreign Affairs also.
Look, maybe they're a bit like AusAid. I mean, basically, the contact we're making there would be looking into the development of scope for programs that they fund. I think that that wouldn't take much time, but it'd be useful to know who in there is kind of, it used to be the old AusAid, but it's part of that department now. The federal court is really just running some programs in the Pacific region, so it's really a bit of a provider. So out of those, I think I'd prefer to aim at DFAT to see if we can get into government and see where the direction's coming from. And then we've got the Judicial Council, and I think that's all we need to focus on.
Yeah, so we have two in that region.
Yeah, just the two, yes.
Yeah, and in the Middle East, you had said UAE Ministry of Justice, but you also have this email.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's just come in this morning. So clearly they're still sort of they've just finished the planning stage. They're moving to implementation. We don't have any more information other than what's in that email. But it looks in principle like something that might be worth exploring.
Yeah. And this would be something that Reem could help us in coordinating. Yep. All right. So maybe we have something in the Middle Eastern region. So we have at least two. But in Europe, I think, can we not spend too much of our time there? What do you all think? Because there's CPEG, I noticed Just Pal isn't included. But we've never made much headway in the European, So shall we focus on the rest of the world before we come back to them?
Well, it's not that they're not doing things in the area. In fact, they've done a lot, but they have their own systems and their own approaches which have been driven. And so...
which is interesting, though, because Moldova and the Ukraine have heavily utilized the framework, and but yeah, the CPAS.
I think it's Western Europe that we've really struggled to have any impact on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should conserve our resources for other things.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then you were talking about...
You know who might be helpful with that is this group, Conrad Adenauer, CAS. You have under private, and I don't know if they're for-profit or non-for-profit, but I know they've done a lot of programs, outside of Europe, but clearly they have to have some connections within Europe if we're going to do it, because they have, they've done programs with a lot of third world countries, and they are based in Germany. So,
okay, but maybe at this stage, if we clear up and we see we may have already quite a number of organizations or jurisdictions, because now, then you talked about Central America, and then you also talked about South America. We don't have any. Oh, let me see. We don't have anything.
Yeah.
I would actually just say quickly, if it comes in the Caribbean, that jurist project does look very promising. If anything, because of the relationship with the Court of Justice there, who are currently in the process of getting quite involved with us, and I think are due to send a membership application in by the end of this year.
Oh, good.
Okay.
And who's that, Patrick, again?
It's Adrian Saunders, Dan. So you helped him out sort of late last year, early this year, with sending him some implementation reports from other courts.
Oh, right. Okay, good.
Okay, so that is the jurist. Is that the one that you're talking about?
Yep. So I think it's Canadian funded, but implemented by the CCJ.
Yeah. Okay. So that one. We have. Do you think we have sufficient at least for the first year? Because it does seem to be quite a lot. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I think that's enough.
Yeah. So too. Sorry, Edward, I didn't get a chance to ask you whether you have any ideas
I'm
about
following
how
you.
we can further promote the framework maybe within Indonesia or in the region.
No, I'm still following you. Following you, then you can proceed. I'm still learning for the new exco now, so just you can
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Yeah, you can always email later, because sometimes when minutes come out, and if you see and you feel that there's something that you wish to comment on, you can. In the same way, I was going to ask Alison, because I actually scratched out all the old things from the AIJA, was supposed to be the point. Are you okay with Laurie's suggestion? I need to mute. Are you okay with Laurie's suggestion?
Yes.
With DTAT? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Fine. So do we have enough information, Patrick, for that particular item? Can we move on? Right.
Yep, and just to confirm with everyone, I'll restructure that document into the different tiers and also identify those priorities for everyone moving forward.
Great. Thank you. All right. So item number 4. We are moving on to translation. This is okay. If we are promoting it within ASEAN, as I had indicated before, I noticed you didn't have any of the Asian languages. I know you looked at numbers. We will continue to try and work with our contacts to see which are the ones that we can work with to get it translated. Okay, now you have your whole list of your wish list.
Yeah, it's sort of, in a way. I think, again, that sort of came from the previous discussion where we just want to identify the priority languages. So, any language spoken over a number of countries where we can make some quick wins are there. Obviously, since then, we've had the offer for it to be translated into Arabic, which has already happened to be delivered, and it's a later item on this agenda, which is fantastic. But, of course, that document also does note quite rightly, our biggest growth area is in Asia. It's in the Pacific, and these are areas where each country, each jurisdiction has its own language. And so I believe the approach we decided on was, look, we'll try and expand into those areas, and we'll deal translations as we get to those areas, because there's not much point preemptively translating, the IC into you know what I mean. Sorry, I've just got caught up.
Okay, looking at the jurisdictions that we were identifying, I'm not sure. Is Spanish more important than French? Because here we are looking at how we can tap on Justice Torres to see whether they can help us with some translations or promote it.
If I was going to say, if we're looking at the Caribbean, and looking at some of the French-speaking areas, it would seem French would be more of a priority than Spanish. And if we're, obviously, if we're looking at going to Brazil, then Portuguese. But I think French would be for some of the smaller islands, and for some of the Caribbean would probably be more utilized, and Spanish, of course, as well. But I mean, the key is to get a partner in with you and take the responsibility for undertaking it. Yeah. That's the key, to get somebody, even and to do it for themselves.
Yes, Dan, sorry. Dan, you were going to say something here.
I think they speak French in Morocco, don't they? Isn't Morocco a French-speaking country? And we have a project there, VLA Notman, who really was over the project in Bangladesh, where they implemented the IFC, and she's a great supporter. In fact, she's my backup to this group. But let me talk to her and see if Morocco is interested in doing some kind of event with the framework, that they would then do an interpretation.
Yeah. Wonderful. So for this one, we need to identify.
Bob, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, in the Caribbean, I mean, the predominantly French-speaking countries are like Guadeloupe, Saint Martin, Haiti, Dominica, Santa Lucia, so all of those islands, the French Antilles, the French West Indies, all of those areas are all French-speaking. So.
Okay, I was just trying to see whether, you had suggested the Department of Justice in Canada, where they were interested, you say, and your contact. They have French, right? They speak. That's one segment that.
I was just thinking that as well, Jennifer. Look, I had contact with Carol. She showed some interest and wanted to. This is when we were moving the secretariat, so it's not that long ago. And she was interested in, receiving some materials and whatever. I had a few emails with her and then just didn't hear anything more. But I'd be happy to pursue her on both levels. One, in fact, I think she was Quebecoise and was French speaking, because it seemed to be her first language. But we could well possibly get a translation produced in the appropriate form of French. Yeah. Maybe through that ministry. But look, I'm happy to make some contact and just try and re-establish and see whether there's some ongoing interest, whether they've done much with the framework.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful. So at least, we'll be starting or on track to try and get a French translation. And then we just have to see how we can try for the Spanish, and what context we have. Like for the Mandarin one, I have been talking to my officers and seeing whether they can work on the Mandarin version. So at least we will have that. I think we have the Vietnamese and the others, but we have no context for the French and the Spanish but now we have the Arabic and the Portuguese.
I'll see if I can do something on the Spanish side, either through people in the U.S. who are, or through Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico judiciary, or through. I mean, today I'm on that call, that webinar this afternoon and one of the Spanish judges was on it, and I helped him out a lot yesterday. So maybe that'll give some goodwill. I was more of his technologist as he was having difficulties presenting, and he and his wife. So maybe he can do that as a favor to us, and I can ask him, and reach out to him and see if he can do something to get that translated.
Okay. Yeah. So at least we are moving. All right. I think small steps, so that's fine. So we have something for the French and the Spanish, and we work on the Mandarin. We've already got the Arabic, and then we will be working on the other ASEAN languages, and we will see where we are at. All right. Do you have a segment in Australia where there's a French speaking or a no?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately not.
All right. So we can move on away from that agenda item as well.
Yep. Oh, actually, just quickly, meeting paper 7, Jennifer, was just a reflection of that chat I had with you and Dan about sort of potential conditions on the translations, because we actually don't really have anything, no approval process, no conditions as to how we should source or approve any translations, and those are just some draft ideas. If anyone has any comments on those, we'd welcome them, but also by email, being conscious of time.
Sure. Because I think what we have been, the approach that we've been taking is really cost-neutral approach, right? It's a zero approach, because we are hoping that people would be prepared to assist. Of course, you can go out and get the translations done, but this is going to be much more costly.
Mm.
Yeah. And then, of course, we just need to make sure that, I don't know, how do we ensure standards, you know?
That's it. Vetting, that was what I was concerned with, is the vetting of it. Like, who's going to tell us today on this call that the Arabic version is accurate or inaccurate? You know, we're sort of relying upon the people that we collaborate with to give us a product that is consistent. But we don't, we don't have a vetting process. And if it's going to be cost neutral, it's going to be difficult to have a vetting process.
I guess we just have to have the appropriate qualifiers on the website, you know.
Yeah, I think also though, can I say, we have this issue translating lots of documents over the years, and when you get a bad translation, usually it's really bad. And what we did is, first of all, we're looking at the quality of who was doing the translation. So just because someone offered to do it didn't necessarily mean they were good at doing it. But what we would do when we got one, we'd actually send it out to a few people, in our case to courts or judges, that actually spoke that language, had that as a second language, and say, does this make sense? And they'd come back and sort of say, look, that's rubbish, or no, it's a really good translation. And so then we're able to have a kind of a, if you like, a cheap quality control over it. But we found generally most of them were good, but every now and then, if it was an individual who said they'd do it in their own time or whatever, it was when it was not being done by an organisation that we started to have troubles with the quality.
Yeah.
You know, well-meaning people, but...
I think the document prepared by the Secretariat is helpful, because he had pulled in together the conditions that will permit the translations, you know. And I think the only thing I thought was a little bit challenging was that the translation organization must either be implementing or supporting the translation. So if we get I don't know who's going to do the Spanish or who's prepared to do the Spanish, but if they're not, they don't meet the criteria, maybe they shouldn't necessarily be excluded, you know. And in any event, like for the Arabic, I thought you should send it off to Reem and ask her to look at it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
At least hopefully you have her on the Exco, and you know she should be able to endorse it, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, wonderful. I'll make that. I'll make that change from a must to a should.
You know,
I'll also
maybe that's the criteria. I mean, where possible, you would prefer them, but if it is not, then it's okay. And must acknowledge the ICCE in the translated version. I think that's what we have been doing. And all the other conditions appear on the current translations anyway, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
It's more about making sure we're happy with that. And I just note that Reem's on leave for a month, but I'll get that document to her.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful as well, Jennifer, if we indicated that it would be helpful to have someone or an organisation that was familiar with the judicial system. So not so much that requirement that we've got there, but rather somebody who's familiar with the language and the processes at courts, because that will ensure a better translation, I suspect.
Yeah. To capture the correct nuances, right? Okay. And I think everyone can further look at the conditions again and see that if there's something else that could be included, then we should do so. All right? Is there anything else, Patrick, that you wanted to include in this document?
No, that's all clear. And I think from that we've covered off agenda item 7 as well, in that I'll be sending that to Ren for review.
So we just have to take a photograph first. And because the extension of REAM is a matter that the permanent members have to decide. Yeah. So, wow, I see, Dan, you're all ready for the photograph.
Taking off my glasses.
Laurie, apologies, but for some reason it's not coming up. Your image isn't coming up on mine.
Or are you going to turn on?
But I'm able to get it else.
Okay.
What do you want me to do?
Turn on your
Turn on what?
the video.
It is on.
Oh. Look, I think it's probably a technical glitch on my side. Maybe as a proposal, I'll take a sort of screenshot now. Oh, no, there's Laurie. Wonderful.
There you go.
I turned it off and on, so there you go.
There we go. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And just hold for 1 second while I take this. Done. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone.
Right. So it leaves us to thank, is that right? And the next meeting should be held sometime October, November, because we should do 2 in a year at a minimum with a new team. So perhaps you could target earlier and maybe a timing that meets Reem's needs a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it in an unearthly hour, you know, to be fair, so that we share the burden.
Shouldn't share the pain.
Yeah, that's right. Because I noticed the timings doesn't seem to work for her most times, you know. So maybe
we should just do a random time and whatever, and who's ever the winner.
Yeah, spin the dial.
Yeah, spin the dial, and whoever wins, that's it.
Yeah. Yes, because Laurie and Justice Torres will be happy. They're in the same group, and I think me and Edward will be fine. And you know, it's just Dan and Reem.
Yep. But I'm getting used to these calls.
Yeah, I think for Reem it's in the early hours, right, of the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 5 a.m.
Yeah. So I think really we should, if we are serious and wanting her to be able to attend, let's try and accommodate her as well.
If we do it later in the evening at our time, you know, even if it's 10 p.m., I think at 10, 11 o'clock, it's okay for Dan. You know, it's early morning for him, and I think it'd be fine in the Middle East. So.
Yeah, maybe that's what we can consider for October, November, because you need to get the timings.
Wonderful.
And I shall try to do this at home like the way Dan does it, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Patrick?
So just for that amended agenda that was sent out this morning, we have sort of covered agenda item 8. Agenda item 9 is quite pressing though. So for those who may recall, sort of towards the end of last year, it was suggested that there should be a separate IFCE questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
So Beth and the FJC were happy to produce that. They've also produced sort of the initial big Excel
Have you spoken to her? Sorry? Have you had a Beth yet?
We've reached out about 6 times, unfortunately, and just haven't heard back.
Dan, is this something that you can help us?
Well, I contacted her and she contacted me, and she's her mother is very ill, I understand. So that may be something. But she said she was going to get back into the swing of things. But you know, I'm more than happy to reach out to her again and actually.
Sorry, I was thinking of whether your team can actually do it.
Yeah, why don't
because
Patrick, why don't you and I talk offline?
Yeah.
And I'll see if I can't.
Beth will still be under quite a lot of pressure, as you said, because if her mother is well, and since it is important for us to move this along, so can we see that, you know, if your team can support us, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Patrick,
just check
you
with
and I
her
talk
one more time before you start over again. She may be near done. And
I'll touch base with her.
Then you know, we could get somebody, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's good if she's made a start. So I will. I'll give her a call, and not just an email.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Great.
That's fantastic.
All right.
I think that's all clear from the Secretariat side. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Jennifer,
everyone.
Thank
do you
you.
want to stay on the
All right.
line? Jennifer, do you want
Yes.
me to, Laurie and you and I? Yep, we'll
Yeah.
stay.
Allison and Pat, pleasure to see you in person.
Lovely
Edward,
to meet you.
look forward
you.
to joining you.
Yep.
All right.
You're welcome.
And Bob, I'll see you in about 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah, we'll see you in Turkey. I'll see you in Turkey.
I'll see you in Turkey in a couple hours here.
All right.
Edward, you're still muted. Yeah, if that helps.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward.
Oh.
Edward, are you able? You can exit now.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jeffrey, for you all, and see you
Yeah,
in
very much. Yeah.
October and November. Okay. See you in the next meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Pleasure to meet you.
Bonar, udah. Makasih Bapak Ibu sekalian. Beda rupanya pelantikan di luar negeri sama di kita. Dia di luar negeri rupanya ngobrol aja sambil ngobrol sambil dia cerita pertemuan besok supaya tahu tadi 7 orang itu dalam 3 hari yang berbeda. Ada yang masih hari Kamis, kita hari Jumat, ada yang sudah hari Sabtu. Ada Sabtu dini hari tadi, ada yang masih hari Kamis jam 10 malam. Nah ini besok katanya tadi ada yang mau ketemu lagi di Turki. Jadi kesimpulannya kira-kira saya agak gamang-gamang tadi mendengarnya karena saya masih berpikir Indonesia, masih berpikir pengadilan. Mereka sudah berpikir tentang Afrika, sasaran negara Afrika, Timur Tengah, tentang mereka katakan tidak cukup hanya Dubai, lalu Australia bukanlah karena semua Australia sudah jadi anggota, dia sudah bicara tentang Kepulauan Salomon. Jadi saya masih bingung-bingung, masih memetakan di mana Kepulauan Salomon, dia sudah pindah lagi ke sana gitu. Jadi ini susahnya, jadi saya masih berpikir lokal, dia sudah ke sana kemari. Jadi Bapak Ibu, tadi mereka membicarakan tentang negara mana dan tentang prioritas penterjemahan bahasa. Kalau mengenai jumlah, Indonesia lebih banyak, 910 di seluruh dunia terbanyak Indonesia, hanya kalah oleh India barangkali. Tetapi rupanya sasarannya ini adalah negara. Kira-kira begitu. Terima kasih. Ini katanya tadi bulan Oktober, November pertemuan berikutnya. Saya nggak tahu. Pertemuan terakhir kita 2 setahun lalu di Dubai. Saya hadir, Pak Yustiar, Pak Kabadan, waktu itu di Dubai kita ada pertemuan dengan Pengadilan Finansial di Dubai. Jadi demikian Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita break dulu supaya langsung penutupan ya, benar ya? Ya, kita break dulu 10 menit kali ya. 10 menit, silakan dicicip snacknya Bapak Ibu. Ada Ibu Pur ya? Oh, ya. Bu Wahyu juga. Ya, terima kasih.